Hey friend, Pastor Jason here from First Baptist Boerne, sitting down with Daniel Justice, our discipleship pastor. Really appreciate your time and attention for this. Guys, what we're going to do over a series of the next couple of weeks is we're going to, basically, Daniel, we've been wanting to engage our culture with this question about sexual identity and how to respond in a biblical frame of reference, and as Christians to walk alongside and engage our culture in that area. And this past weekend, we brought in Dr. Ted Cable from Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, and he came in, did an incredible job on Sunday night, really giving us the 30,000-foot flyover as far as the history of the sexual revolution and where we've been and how to think about things really from a theological perspective and to be grounded in that. But as pastors, we just know and realize that you, our people, we need some more kind of down to earth, in the weeds, like in the everyday pattern of life resources. And so that's what this video is, as well as a couple more that are going to follow. And so this video is directly targeted towards parents and grandparents about how to engage your children in a conversation and just how to think through, right? Just kind of a pattern of important things for you to hear us say as pastors and just walk through, hey, how do we disciple our children and our grandchildren in the midst of this? Right. And so here's the deal. We're going to jump in and we're going to get started. We're just going to have a conversation and go back and forth. The first thing that I would say to you, parent, is that you teach the truth at all times. In all of life, you are teaching the truth. There's going to be drives on the way to church and to soccer practice and back and forth. But at all times, we are called to teach the truth. It's not enough just to think that you can drop your kids off at church for an hour a week and pick them up whenever they're graduating seniors, and that they'll have all of this formulated. Okay, life, you got to do life together, and you answer questions along the way. And so you teach truth all the time. And here's the deal. It's very, very important to lay a foundation of the positive truth first before you ever encounter the negative. And so Daniel just took our children's department over the weekend kind of through laying a positive foundation. So Daniel, where would you initially go as a parent in hitting certain topics to lay a biblical foundation about sexuality and engaging our culture?
Sure. I think the first thing you've got to do, start at the beginning of the Bible, Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created. Our kids are hearing, we're here by accident, right? We're the result of a big bang, process of billions of years, all of those things. The first thing they've got to understand is that God intentionally created the world. Yeah. Right? And then you can kind of just from there go a little deeper. God didn't just create the world, he created man. So there was purpose and intentionality in his creation. He created man and he created woman. So there's a reason, there's purpose to his creation, there's design, it's specific. You just kind of begin walking through that. Genesis 1, then go to Genesis 2 and look at how God created Adam and Eve. And then he said it wasn't good for the man to be alone. And all of those things help lay that foundation to help them understand that God did this, which helps then begin to help them understand the value in their identity, right? That's what's being devalued is our differences and our identity. And so scripture just really helps to shine a light on no, God did this and it's beautiful and it's for a reason and it's how it was meant to, he designed it to work. And then jumping over to Psalm 139, we took the kids there to see, as you just go through the first 16 verses of that Psalm, you see that God, has a plan for his creation. That he sees us. He didn't just create us and then leave us on our own, but he's there. He walks with us. He knows us. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Going through that verse with the kids, help them understand they're a masterpiece, right? God, it's a work of art when he created. All of those things help in a very positive way them understand the beauty of how God made them, and it gives them a confidence that it's not an accident.
Yeah, exactly right. And so one of the things that we're pressing you, parent, is that in the rhythm and pattern of life, you need to be teaching. Okay, and that is I mean, there is a truth or a truth claim by our culture that basically says that we are genderless souls, and oh, you might have ended up in the wrong gender of a body. And the reality is that couldn't be further from a biblical truth. And so laying that foundation consistently, and we repeat this from a positive perspective throughout life as part of your rhythm, because it's very important when you have to address the negative that you've already laid the positive foundation. And so we were talking just yesterday about how incredibly kind of charging it could be that when you address the negative, you don't come across overly angry, you don't come across overly hostile, but how important it is to be able to address the negative in our culture from a calm perspective, but having also laid the positive foundation first.
Right. It's absolutely important if you're laying that foundation, and it's not a one-time thing, right? You're finding ways to bring that up as often as you can, to talk about those things and what God was doing, so that when you do have to address what you see, it's just a natural part of that conversation. You can say, hey, when we look at what God did, but then we see this over here, how do we understand it? I think it's really important as your kids get older, look for those opportunities, whether it's something you see online, whether it's a TV show you watch, whether it's a movie. Don't just say, wow, that's wrong, when you see something that goes against a biblical worldview. Ask your children to help you filter that. Say, why is that wrong? Yeah. Right? I mean, help me take what you know about God's word and let's filter this together. Why is that wrong? Why is what I see wrong? Why is what they said wrong? Right? I mean, those are important things, because it's helping our children think critically about the world, but it's doing it with God's word as the paradigm.
Yeah, and I think we're even suggesting, right, at the end of a movie or at the end of a TV show.
Absolutely.
Right? Because we're encountering culture all the time. And so you've just watched a certain TV show, and then pause it and hey, let's have a talk. Again, be calm, all right? Hear me, I think we need to say this. It is not helpful for you to go on a heated rant using slurs against people and certain behavior. It's enough for you to say it's wrong. Do not do so in a hateful rant, because deep down your child will process, hey, wait a second, why aren't you speaking about that person as if they are created in the image of God? Why are you using such hateful slurs about them? Okay,
and it sets up this tension sometimes that when your kids are struggling with something, they may not come to you with it if they know your reaction.
Yeah, if they
is
has been so hostile.
Yeah, it's like, well, I'm not coming to you with this. Right. So you are so much better off as a parent or a grandparent if your kids hear you lovingly and calmly, like you said. Let's talk about these things. Even, man, isn't the brokenness we see in our world sad? Yeah. Man, this must break God's heart, rather than just saying, man, our world's just on its way to right. I mean,
you fill in the rest.
Yeah, you fill it in.
So. Okay. So here's another important thing for us to point out, and that is just how critical it is, because I know that parents and grandparents are asking the question, hey, when should I shelter my kids?
Sure, it's a great question.
And when should I allow them to be exposed to certain content? All right. Difficult question as a parent. So we're going to have to set up some basic parameters. Here's the deal. First of all, every child is different. Okay. You can have a general awareness of certain parameters, but my two sons are a year apart, and they are completely different. They're as different as night and day. And so as Lane and I observe both of them, we actually treat kind of their exposure or shelter component kind of different. And so we do that because every child is different. Obviously, when they're younger, you want to be in more of a shelter protect mode because you want them to grow up in a healthy, safe environment. You don't want them to be exposed to things that are hostile too early. But the general trend, right, is as they get older, you can't keep them in a bubble forever. All right. Christians have historically kind of had a tendency to do that. Let's just hide in our own bunker. But the truth of the matter is the goal of parenting is to allow to rear up your children to where they can think for themselves,
Right.
and where they think in a biblical framework.
Yeah. And so gradual is a word that comes to mind, right? And gradual will be, like you said, every child's different. But thinking that way, saying, all right, am I gradually helping my children process this, thinking biblically? Am I giving them opportunities?
Yeah, you're going to test it a little bit, right?
Yeah, where they've still got a safety net under them. I mean,
Absolutely.
the most destructive thing we can do is shelter them until
For
they're out
18
from
years.
for 18 years, and then say good luck. I mean, it's so much better. Let's let them wrestle with them some things. Let's let them have some wrong ideas that while we're still there to correct, to help shape.
And
Right?
that's such a great statement. Even with wrong ideas, giving them the freedom, don't freak out on them and just, that's a horrible idea, right? Again, responding calmly so that you understand your home is this think tank to be able to begin to put on a biblical worldview,
Right.
and to be able to process through this.
Yeah. I mean, I think about this all the time. I mean, elementary kids, middle school children, high school kids, they are not mentally, emotionally ready to handle the brokenness we see in our world when it comes to sexuality.
Huge questions.
I mean,
right?
adults aren't really ready for this.
That's why
right?
we're doing this. We're having this because we all struggle. And you
so to
can't.
expect our kids to think rightly immediately,
Right.
it's just not going to happen. So you're right. I mean, it's, you've got to give them an opportunity to process it and process it with them.
Right.
Biblically. I mean, that's...
Well, and then this now goes to kind of the next thing that we wanted to say. And it's the truth of the fact that, hey, we're all still processing this.
That's right.
Things are moving at such warp speed. And so just talk for a moment about the fact of how we're supposed to do this in community.
Yeah, I mean, that's... you can't do it if you're not in community, right? I mean, because all of us as parents, we've blown it, right? I mean, we know that. We can think of those ways. And so to have other parents that you could say, pray for me, or how did you handle this?
Oh, man.
Right? I mean, help me out here. I mean, having that humility to know I don't have all the answers. I'm not going to get it all right, but I can link arms with my church body and they can help. I love that we're in a multi-generational church at First Baptist because we have people older than us that and younger than us that we can pour into, but then we've got people who can pour into us who maybe are a little more seasoned that can say, hey, I've walked there. Here's something we did and it really helped. Or, hey, here's what we did and it was a disaster. Learn from this.
Yeah.
I mean, that community aspect is crucial. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, but God designed us, to be part of this body of believers that encourage and support one another. So
yeah, it's God has given different gifts. Okay, that none of us is a complete body. One of us is a hand, the other one's an elbow and a shoulder. And so the awesome news is that there are tons of resources
sure.
that Christians are producing and that the church has available. And then we get together in small groups, in our growth groups, through MOPS, through different Bible studies to be able to have these conversations. And I genuinely pray that you would have friends and people close to you, that you can be open and honest, that you as a parent or a grandparent can express some of your questions in a safe space and then be able to work those out. Okay.
I mean, isolation is the devil's favorite playground for us as believers, right? And so when we So we gotta.
Yeah. So true. So true. All right. So we want to keep this short, but before we go, I wanted to ask. We wanted to ask a question. All right. So Daniel, what if you, as a parent, you're rearing your child, and boy or girl, but say your boy starts to like non-male gender type things. So let's say they're 5 years old and they like to play with Barbies. Like, how do you, as a parent, begin to process that question? Your grandchild or your son or daughter is growing up in this culture and starts to explore a little bit of gender.
Well, first of all, we go back to the stay calm, right? I mean, I think that's a theme of this. Don't overreact, because things aren't gender, right? I mean, a child playing with a doll is okay, right? I mean, things don't have gender to them. So, so stay calm, understand, as they develop, that, things don't have that. So it's okay if a boy doesn't like football, or a girl doesn't want to have a tea party, right? I mean, it's okay if they have interests, or things get their attention.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with music or the arts, or I mean, I think if we're honest, though, we have to address the fact that particularly males really want a real macho son.
Sure.
But if God made him a little more interested in music and towards the arts side of things, there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't make him have same-sex attraction or confused about his gender.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Right. It's part of, it is part of that development. I mean, it can be based on their environment, right? I mean, if they grow up in a home, I grew up in a home with 6 sisters. I mean,
it would not have been a surprise for you to play with dolls, because that's all that was around.
That was what was around. I mean, I had tea parties as a teenage boy because I had little sisters that wanted to have tea parties.
Yeah.
That didn't make me question whether I should
So where would you say that there is a line where you as a parent would start getting concerned?
Yeah, I would say, as your kids get older, as they get into that adolescent age, just be aware, if they are at that point exploring, like through role play, or, they're still as a teenager interested in dressing up as the opposite gender, or, their friend circles, are all the opposite sex, at that point, just, start to be aware, start to watch for patterns, be more observant. And if you see that pattern continuing in that direction, ask for help. That's important. Don't just let it go if you start to see some things that should be concerning. But I think that point is in that adolescent, when they're kind of pointed toward adulthood. That's a really important line.
Yeah. And what I would say, it's particular. So I have 2 boys and a girl. With my boys, I want to make sure that that they have healthy same-sex relationships.
Absolutely.
And so for me as a father, just knowing the importance that a male role model, the father figure, plays in their life, and make sure that I'm constantly having healthy, affectionate interactions with them.
Right.
And again, it's different for both of them. But I make sure I'm available. So Eli, my middle boy, is a physical touch kind of boy. And so I make sure I give him lots of hugs and make sure I connect with him in a healthy way. And then the other thing that I certainly want to see in my children is that they have healthy same-sex peer relationships. So are my boys having... do they have healthy friendships of their own age that are of the same sex? And does my daughter have healthy same-sex peer kind of relationships?
Right.
That go with that.
Yeah. And as parents, we have the opportunity, like I said, I'm the dad of 2 daughters. We have an opportunity to model for them what biblical manhood looks like. And then as moms, what it means to be a godly woman, right? We can show even our children of the opposite sex from us, a good example of what it looks like. So, I mean, I think both have responsibilities, I think, in shaping that, but it's really important.
Yeah, and the other thing we would say is, again, just to circle back around, right? We're teaching truth all the time. This is not a one-time conversation, but rather the Lord has called us to disciple. That means to walk alongside. Remember, Jesus walked along his disciples. They did life together. Well, and that's your calling as a parent or as a grandparent. These aren't one-time conversations. Stay calm. A repeated frame through this is stay calm, walk with them, teach truth at all times, and pray. And the Lord, you're not alone. The Lord will give you friends and resources as you walk through this journey together. Friends, we really hope that you found this helpful. It's our aim to produce a few more of these conversations. Next week, we hope to produce one on pornography, really talking like this, candidly about how to deal with pornography, particularly with teenagers growing up, how to address those issues. Some other conversations that we hope to have are on how do you walk as a friend alongside someone who might have same-sex attraction or gender confusion. How do you, as a Christian, walk alongside them? And so a number of conversations that we hope to produce these over the next few weeks. Pray that this is helpful. Please continue to reach out to us as a church. We want to provide resources for you. May God bless you.